Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to some EVE Online, and in today's video I'm going to cover another devlog about the citadels because it turns out that CCP is going to change the siege mechanics. They had announced that sieging of the structures and of the citadels would also work with the endosis link, but a lot of people did not like the idea. I myself had one big worry. What we had read in that devblog was that someone using the endosis link in Isaac would only go suspect, and so that would mean that if you have a citadel out there but for whatever reason, whatever emergency, you can't be online for a single day, and on that day someone decides to start an endosis link on your citadel, you would be able to do absolutely nothing. They would start getting it into reinforced, and so that did feel a little bit out of balance, potentially problematic. Although I also did like an aspect of that, is that if, let's say, you have a successful citadel with a lot of trade activity going on in it, you can of course expect your customers to try and defend you whenever someone would go suspect trying to use the endosis link on the structures. But no worries, all of that is going away. So let's go for the dev blog right here on the community website, and it's called Citadels, Sieges and EU version 2. So there was probably a lot of internal debate as well, but I think what really caused CCP to really have an in-depth look at this was all of the feedback that actually players gave on the first devblog about the intended mechanic with the endosis link. And so they're gonna completely scrap that. They're gonna bring back a certain form of structure bashing, but it's actually going to have limitations on it, so that you cannot just bring hundreds or even thousands of ships and then just blab a citadel away in a matter of minutes just because you were able to bring so many people. So it will be shooting the structure, which honestly we did a post bash in the wormhole, and although because of our small numbers it was rather boring and it was a lot of work, when that boss finally blew up, that was actually really very rewarding. And then we got some spoils out of that, so you have to understand that it's a lot of work. It's an effort to put in, especially if you don't have the numbers to really blast through it at the optimal rate, because that's basically what these will have now, an optimal rate. But it was rewarding, it was exciting as well. Because the Russian tried to interrupt us with a few ships with some bombing runs and stuff like that. We disposed defenses as well. So honestly, it was not a completely unpleasant mechanic. What did make it a little bit unpleasant, of course, was the grindy aspect, the huge number of HP that they had. So what are they planning exactly? I'm not going to completely read this devlog. As you can see, it's pretty in-depth. One thing that you should keep in mind is that all the numbers here are subject to change, but let's get started. What has not changed is that every citadel will have a vulnerability period that you'll have to set yourself every week. So for instance, a medium citadel will have 3 hours where it will be vulnerable, and so you'll have to choose those 3 hours depending on when you play EVE Online the most. Large one 6 hours, and an XL 21 hours. That means 3 hours every day. If you're putting out an XL. Of course, you can also decide to go a full day of 21 hours on a single day. That's all up to you. But it's an interesting mechanic, and so that's definitely something that they are going to keep. But now, once the structure becomes vulnerable, it's no longer the endosis link that's going to try to get the structure or the citadel in a reinforced mode. It's going to be shooting just like on a boss. And at first you'll be shooting on the shields, which will then have an automatic repair timer. So how will you be able to defend your citadel? That is, try to keep your opponent from continually applying damage to the shields of your structure. If you manage to do this for a certain amount of time, a timer called the repair timer is going to start to tick, and after 15 minutes, so if you've managed to stall your opponents for a full 15 minutes, then the shields will automatically be repaired back to full, and they'll have to start all over again. So this is one way that they want to give smaller groups and the owners of the citadel a chance to defend, even if we're talking about a bigger group. Some good use of possibly bombing runs in nullsec, but also ECM, and maybe yeah, getting the right ships off the field while they're trying to get your shields down should enable you to try and defend your citadel. So that's going to be this this repair timer. Now, one thing to note, it was a worry I had right away as well, was this repair timer will not reset. So it's not like the opponent can organize some cloaky ships that they'll just fire at the shields once every 15 minutes, pretty much unopposed. There's hardly any way to really counter that. Resetting the timer, it doesn't work like that. So if you've got 5 minutes of time where they did not shoot your structure, that's going to count towards the timer, and then any damage applied is just going to pause the timer. And if they are forced to retreat again, it's just going to start up again, and after a full 15 minutes without damage, you're back up to full shield strength, and they'll have to start all over again. So this should give you an opportunity to defend using clever tactics. They're looking at 15 minutes in high sec and nullsec, 30 minutes in low sec and wormhole space, and nullsec space with full indexes, I'm sorry, and then in nullsec itself, where the owner has no index, 60 minutes, which is well, quite a long time that you have to fend off your opponents. But yeah, 15 minutes in high sec, that's actually something that should be doable in what would usually be smaller scale conflicts. Next up here, that's just the anchoring mechanic, but the one that's really going to change things, I think, is here the mitigation of damage. So they actually intend there to be a maximum amount of DPS that can be applied to the shields, structures, or the armor of the citadels. And again, keep in mind these numbers are subject to change, but the aim is probably 4000 DPS for a medium, which should be around 5 to 15 battleships or 1 dreadnought. Don't see this as confirmation of high sec capitals just yet. You know, mediums could be deployed in low sec and null sec as well, of course. And then for a large, they're aiming at something like 12,000 DPS, but we're talking 30 to 60 cruisers, maybe 15 to 45 battleships or 2 to 4 dreadnoughts, and then that will have to fire at the station for like half an hour. Keep that in mind without being interrupted. And then finally for an XL, 60,000 DPS, which should be around 75 to 225 battleships. That's actually a pretty decent number already. And 10 to 20 dreadnoughts, or 10 to 20 dreadnoughts to basically be able to get through the shields, the armor, or the structure at the best possible time. This is pretty much what they're looking at. If you bring any more, they're not going to add to you destroying the structure any faster, thus giving the defenders time to organize and try to find a counter. But of course, a group that's able to overwhelm them with even bigger numbers, if you're just too small, then they're gonna get on top of your citadel. But it's not like they'll be able to just blast it away in 5 minutes, because they actually bring 2,000 people. So the numbers here, they're looking at, here again, time to attack around 30 minutes. Again, subject to change, but they want you to basically have full control of the field for 30 minutes and be able to apply the necessary DPS for at least 30 minutes in order to go through the shields at first. Then there will be a reinforced timer. You'll have to do the same on the armor. Finally, another reinforced timer. Then destroy the structure, and the citadel is going to blow up after that. That does mean that it's going to be quite a bit of work to get through a citadel, especially if a reinforce can take 24 hours or even more. Then we're probably talking 3-4 days to get rid of a structure. That's quite a commitment to make. Another note to make as well is that they are planning to have the necessary exceptions to make all of this a bit more maybe viable or smooth when it comes to wormhole space. It is quite different, of course, there. Another major change Over here you can see some early pictures of how they want everything to be visible to people. So you'll have a vulnerability state for 2 hours here, for instance, or invulnerable for the next 48 hours. So you actually know while in space when you could conceivably attack one of those citadels. The one big change as well that is announced in this dev blog is that they are no longer going to have this asset safety in wormhole space. So if a citadel is destroyed in wormhole space, everything in that is going to be part of the loot drop. So the loot ferry could drop 50% of whatever is in there, and yeah, you won't be able to just have those assets be safe, build a new citadel, and then redeem them there at a cost of like 10% or whatever they decide to go to. But for high-sec, null-sec and low-sec, I think it's still the idea to have this asset safety, so that if your citadel is lost, your stuff either goes to another citadel or the closest high-sec station, or possibly null-sec station. Is it the same security type? I think that's possible as well. And then you can redeem everything at a price, a percentage of the actual value of the stuff you lost there. But yeah, this is a pretty major change. My first impressions on this is that it's not a bad system. They're trying to counterbalance the big problem of just bringing more people to burn stuff down in such a small time frame that there's nothing to do that you can do anymore. I mean, you can still do it, but you'll still need half an hour to get on top of a structure, basically. A disadvantage that I see is that people will basically calculate exactly what they need to get the best time possible, and that's pretty much any fight we're gonna see. So they'll have that fleet ready, you destroy this type of citadel in 30 minutes, and then they'll organize other fleets around that to defend them probably. And so people will be able to simply calculate the optimal formula depending on what they can bring, and they'll know, well, a citadel, getting it down or getting it into the reinforced mode is going to take us 30 minutes period. So that is something to look at. Maybe find ways that the defenders could play with that a little bit, make it a bit more annoying. That is just beyond being able to field more guys, because that's basically going to be an answer that people will bring to the table here. You know, control the field. If they come up with a fleet against you, just bring in more guys. That will still work. So maybe if an entosis mechanic could be used defensively to annoy them a little bit, that could be something that I think could add to it. But do defenders need even more advantages than just a repair timer? I'm not entirely sure either. It'll all be subject to balance and to changes as well, of course, but those are, I guess, my first few thoughts. And then on the one hand, I'm happy that someone won't just be able to endosis my high-sec citadel anymore, and the only costs, the only risk they're taking is a timer, a suspect timer. On the other hand, of course, the way I looked at that was, well, if I make a successful trading citadel where people come and go all the time, then someone going suspect is just gonna make them happy and give them something to shoot at. So it was a little bit of a double-edged situation as well, especially considering it would only be possible during the vulnerable time period of the structure. But I think this is a good idea. I think that this could work, and hopefully this will also give capitals and super capitals something to do once again in EVE Online, because at the moment they're, well, pretty much out of the job there. So yeah, there you go. This is what CCP is looking at when it comes to the sieges of the citadels, which hopefully we'll start to see this year already. Again, this is a good show that CCP does listen to feedback and is willing to basically completely throw out a system they'd been working on and preparing for and come up with a better one because of player feedback. So if you have comments, worries, if you see real problems when it comes to this, I mean, hop into the comments and make sure to tell CCP your thoughts on this, because they are listening. This is real proof of that. Anyways, there you go. I can't wait to actually see some of these citadels in space. Look at what they're planning to do on this as well. damage phases. So here we have one that's completely ripped up, and then over here, probably going through the shields, you'll have a little bit of damage and atmospheric leaks. Going through the armor, you'll start to see hull breaches right there, and then finally when they're attacking your structure, you'll actually see surface cracks on this, really big gaps in the armor everywhere, huge vents of atmosphere as well. If they can make it look like this, and then if I could have my delonewolf logo right here at the top, then absolutely I want some of those citadels. It looks pretty damn cool, and definitely something to work at in EVE Online when they come out. Anyways, that's it for this devlog then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.